we want to do this because my piece involves everybody pieces, right?
Exactly. So run your piece.
Anybody's done that. So, and folks, again, like I said, tonight is the last time you're going to hear we speak about this issue because we have things to do. In fact, all of you all of the inquiring minds who want to know about the finances of the organization, see we go to the bank and we go to the bank and pick up all of the records, right? And we are going to discuss them. We're not going to know detail because some things people don't need to know. But what we need to do is we need to dispel the lies. But anyway, yes, beyond the puzzle will be completed tonight. So, gentlemen, how do we handle this?
Now, I think you should go ahead, as you said, and we'll fill in and punctuate anything, and if you want to defer, goes in anyway.
All right.
Yes, Mas Wilfred, I agree. You go ahead and you start talking about everything and let the others fill in. And my word, did they fill in? Some very, very interesting revelations were made by the backup speakers last night. Very interesting. And you will hear all of it and my analysis of the disclosures and comments that were made by these members of the what I call treacherous group of persons who are in the diaspora. And you will see why I say they're treacherous. All right, so welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me, keeping me company as usual. You know, I enjoy your company. Thank you so much to all of my esteemed subscribers and viewers. You have been the bedrock of this channel, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate your support and your continued support. Please like the video if you do, or maybe you know you will, so like it from now before you forget. That's what I do, by the way, when I watch other channels that I subscribe to. Subscribe if you have not yet done so. Hit the notification button so you'll know whenever I upload a video. I just love to see when I upload a video. And I get very concerned and I say, Lord have mercy, I wonder if anybody will watch this one, only to see the thing turning over the minute I upload, you know. Somebody always jump in. It's a pity I can't see who to thank them. And then you see turning over. Oh, you don't know how enjoyable that is after we've, you know, put out the work and bring you information. So thank you so much for that. Also, leave your comments. You have been doing so. Some very interesting comments. Some of them I can't agree with, but most of it I can agree with. I even comment sometimes, especially if you ask for clarity about something or you misunderstood something that I say. But I do appreciate it. So, you know, old time people say, let me move along now. You know what old time people say? Old time people say, cockroach no business in a fowl fight. But since the fowl them decide to bring them business out into the public and invite cockroach and all to come in and hear what is going on in their organization, you know, we cockroaches, we really have to pay attention and against the advice of the old-time people, we're going to dip them out into it. All right? So, this now is Mr. Rattigan, Wilfred Rattigan. On the screen, you have a gentleman by the name of Mr. President, and you have Isaac Buchanan, young and esteemed attorney who had a very scratchy and iffy youth, got himself into trouble with cocaine and so on. I think he was accused of cocaine trafficking when he was 17, and I think again when he was in his 20s. I am not certain if he did jail time. He might have. Now, despite his poor choices when he was a youngster, he has turned his life around, and to me, he is a fine example, although sometimes some of the words that come out of his mouth is no fine example at all. But otherwise from that, he's a fine example to our other youngsters who may have made some mistakes in their lives, that you can turn yourself around, shake off those bad experiences in your past, and make yourself a useful member of society. This young man, I have to give him praise, although he's a riser, I must give him praise, has been doing an excellent job for persons who have been accused by the state, may not have much money, and he goes out to help and represent them, he and John Clark, and that is very, very good. And maybe these iffy decisions he made when he was a teenager and in his early 20s set him up nicely for his path in life. And what old time people say, one not dead, what them say again, one not dead, not dash it way, something to that effect. So I am going to give him his flowers because he deserves it. He is the son of a very, very famous and well-known musician, and a PNP lady who I have some spat with on, she's a Mark Golding fan. She's a part of the Rise Camp, and me being resistant, we have a little spat from time to time. She's now a reverend, she says. Poor God. Poor God, the things that poor man go through. But anyhow, so that is who he is. So they came on last night, which would have been the 24th of August, 2024, and they wanted to make a last stance and say their piece in terms of the swirling allegations around the foundation that Mr. Rattigan set up. And there were many, many accusations by some commentators, some vloggers, and it would appear that they have decided to use this broadcast to respond to all those accusations that are swirling around on social media concerning this foundation. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Rattigan say his piece. I will come back and have my own piece to finish off, and you'll be very surprised at my analysis of what the dickens is going on with these people who are demonstrating against the people of Jamaica under the guise, there's no guise. They say it's the government of Jamaica and we are the government. Some number of us put them there, right? So we are going to listen to him, and I'll come back and tell you what it is I think about what he says. So listen all the way through. Remember, now you have to listen all the way through, all right? So you can get the understanding of everything. And remember, you can always pause and come back later, because it more than likely it's going to be almost an hour. Almost an hour, because there's a lot of revelations that were made and analysis to do. But let me turn you over to Wilfred Rattigan now.
All right. No. When I go, folks,
Agree.
you're going to hear some things tonight. Some of these things, they're public. Some of these things are public knowledge. Not, you probably never heard of it, but these things have been said in public. And some of the things you're going to hear, they've never been said. But it's only fitting that we bring these things out once and for all. Like a friend of mine in South Africa would have said, Chief, once and for all, do it, and that's it. All right, let me start off by saying, we aspire for unity in life, but inevitably, separation will happen. And while separations are painful and heartbreaking, some of them are blessings in disguise. Never be afraid to assess your separations. Learn from them and aspire for bigger and better things. Now I'm going to discuss my separation from a band of brothers and tell you why it's a blessing in disguise. After today, as I've said before, you will not hear from me regarding this subject matter. The Jamaican people are suffering while we engage in distractions, and the government scoffs at us. I promise you that the government won't be doing it for long, because the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation is still working. You are going to hear lots of statements that are attributed to various individuals. Some of these statements will be offered as true, and some of them will be offered for the fact that they were said. So I hope you understand the difference. We're going to provide statements and we'll say this statement is true, and this statement, it was said. We don't know if the content is true. In the end, you will make up your mind about what really happened. Let me start. The One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation was formed as a 501c3 not-for-profit organization in June 2023. It was Wilfred Rattigan who researched the idea. It was Wilfred Rattigan who consulted with two attorneys, both of whom are watching right now. It was Wilfred Rattigan and one of the attorneys who filed the necessary paperwork. It was Wilfred Rattigan who paid the fee of $801 for this organization to become a viable legal entity. Now that money, that $801, that will be reconciled when the foundation's taxes are filed in a few weeks. And I hope people understand, because people are jumping up and down, say, me give ISAT money, me give loan some money, me rent fancy SUV, me do this. Those things, all expenses will be reconciled. I hope you understand that every cent I have collected, I can account for. Every cent. If you gave money to people to give to me, and I didn't receive it, then I cannot account for that. But every cent that I receive, and every cent that you send to the bank directly, I can account for that.
Now let me pause here briefly to give you a quick definition of what the words accounted for. When you're talking about accounted for something like money, what exactly those words mean. According to Merriam-Webster, it says accounted for someone or something. In this case, we're talking about something. The definition we would use, because it is in the context of what he was saying. It means to show what happened to something, know where something is. That is the context in which he means it has been accounted for. He knows where the money is, because as he showed in the beginning, he showed the bank statements. The bank statement, not accounting statement now, bank statement. He made a little error and referred to it as invoices. But then he corrected himself and said bank statements. So it appears from what he's saying that he has no accounting record, which is different from accounted for. You follow what I'm saying? If he had an accounting record where he was showing the monies come in and the expenditures, he would have flashed that to the camera, but he clearly has no accounting record so far. Now, later on in this video, we are going to be checking to see what the 501c3 regulations state should be the accounting activities of a not-for-profit organization registered under its purview. But in the meantime, let us continue to listen to what Mr. Rattigan has to say.
Now, the foundation was filed in the state of Maryland and with the IRS, and it is in good standing. In addition to state and federal laws, the foundation is governed by its articles of incorporation and bylaws. Initially, there were 3 board members: Herb Nelson, Richard Crookston, and yours truly, Wilfred Rattigan. It was increased to 4, Melissa Yin Choi, who recently resigned to address personal affairs and take over her family's business. So now we're back to 3, or we were back to 3. The foundation has sponsored and, in concert with others, conducted protests in the U.S. only: Miami, New York, D.C. To be clear, The foundation has not sponsored any protests or conferences in Canada or the UK and has no interest, no desire to do so at this time. Now, only 2 people have visibility on the foundation's account, myself and Mr. Herb Nelson. So anything you hear about accounts, you can just attribute that to somebody else, not me. This is my first time coming out now talking about the account itself. I haven't provided specifics about the account, so whatever financial news you have received, again, did not come from me. Now, the foundation has never, and I have to emphasize that, never provided a loan to anyone. On earth, below the waters, up in the sky. Never provided a loan to anyone. So the invoices, the statements and everything like this from the bank. I have everything right here, and I've reviewed them thoroughly. In fact, I went over them last night. And I went over them in preparation to meet with the accountant. Now, the narrative that Wayne Lonesome. Oh, by the way, Wayne Lonesome. Let me go back to Wayne Lonesome. You know what? I'll get to him. I'll get to him because there's a section I want to tell people some things about Lonesome that they didn't know. Now, the foundation, the narrative that Wayne Lonesome received a loan from the foundation is a bold-faced lie. I can say that because I know it didn't happen, because I am the one who can disburse funds from the account. And no loan has ever been provided to anyone. Mr. Herb Nelson can view the account, but he cannot disperse funds.
So let me butt in here to make a point, a very important point. So what has he said so far? He said on the account of his association, the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation, there is only one signature on the account, and that's his. He went on to explain why. It was not really his intent, but I'll let him explain why in a moment. So his name alone is on the account. He alone can disburse fund. Okay, anybody can put in, but he alone can spend the money. Herb appears to be, of the 4 members on the board, there are 4 members on the board. He, Herb, a fellow called Richard Crookson, and a miss called Melissa. It sounds as if he said Hinchroy, not sure. But the 4 of them, and of all 4, Herb, apart from him, are the only 2 of the board members who can view the account, apparently online. Right? Now, Herb, he said he has not gone out and said anything at all about the accounts, right? Anything at all. No information about the accounts came from him. That's what he said, right? So the accounts information, if it is true, must be coming from her, because he's the only other person who can view the account in real time. See how much money is coming in, see how much money is going out. Now, he said that they have been saying that money was loaned to Lonesome and to others. And he's disputing it and say it's not true. Now, the only thing that I have to say about this, all right, the money was not loaned to Lonesome. We're going to accept that. But was money gifted to Lonesome? Because I'm sure the persons who are donating may want, they clearly want to know what is happening with the money, and you are not giving them any information. That's the problem. You are not giving them any information about the money received and the money spent, and questions are being asked. You said no money was loaned to Wayne Lonesome, all right? Was money gifted to Wayne Lonesome or to anyone else? And if you did gifted other persons with money from the foundation, wasn't it for the purpose of foundation business? That's what I would have thought. So, what is so hard in admitting that? He has not really denied, that money was given to Lonesome and others. He simply says it was not a loan, right? And that's the difference, because Herb, and he also never said Herb was lying. So therefore, Herb saw some transaction taking place and draw some conclusion, because bank accounts don't tell you what it is that the transaction is for. Somehow he knew that the money went to Lonesome, and he knew that the money went elsewhere. He didn't know what it went for, and he came to certain conclusions. There are no accounts that could help him to determine what it is this money was used for. Hence, he jumped to certain conclusions, and Rattigan is now saying it was not a loan. But he has not ventured to tell his donors what the transfer or payment of this money was for. Let's continue to listen.
Now let me tell you how this thing was formed. When I formed this thing, I reached out to Mr. Nelson as a friend. And thankfully I reached out to another person that nobody knows. And I asked him if he would come on the board. And I was in a rush. And that's why sometimes you shouldn't be in a rush to do things. I was in a mad rush to get this thing going because I've been talking about it. And let me just say here, talking about it, that Lonesome filed his lawsuit first. He was the first to file a lawsuit from the diaspora against the government of Jamaica, at least within the last 10 years that I'm aware of. I followed shortly thereafter. In a conversation with Wayne Lonesome, because we said, a whole heap of lawsuits need to file at Jamaica. And in a conversation with him, it gave birth to the idea of a foundation to support lawsuits. Let me make that absolutely clear to people, that it was Wayne Lonesome and I who had that conversation. So let's be absolutely clear on that. And I took that idea and I said, all right, fine, I am going to do it. Now, when I asked Mr. Nelson to join me, and I asked Mr. Cookson to join me, I did it with the best of intentions. I thought this was gonna just move, smoothly. Everything was gonna be fine. I went to the bank because I was in a rush to get things filed. In fact, the attorney who helped with the filing, he's watching now and he knows this to be true. He knows it because I went to his house twice and he lives quite a distance from me. And we said, we have to get this thing going. Then the bank said to me, listen, get a piece of ID from them, have them send it to you, a piece of ID, a copy of it, and something to sign. And I sent it to both of them. And then I went back. I went back to the bank. And then the bank manager said, no, they have to be here in front of me to sign the document. They have to be here in front of me. We're not accepting any copies. We want wet signature, and we want them physically in front of us. And I called Mr. Nelson and I told him about this. And I also called Mr. Cookson and I said, look, we need to get this thing going. And they said, fine, no problem. Because the bank manager said, you can sign it, but then you will be the only person who can disperse funds. And I said, fine, no problem. And I explained this to both of them and they said, fine. And that's how I became the person. And actually, when he said it, I was kind of happy that it happened, because I said, no, if anything should happen with monies, I want to be the only person that people can come to and talk. I don't want people to come and ask me, what did Herb do with this money? What did Mr. Cookson do with this money? No, come to me and ask me about the funds. So that's how I ended up being the only person to disperse funds. Now, have I had conversations? We were talking about loans, Wayne Lonesome and loans. Have I had conversations with anyone about the grant of a loan from the foundation? Have I had that kind of conversation? Yes. And that person is a current member of the Call to Action WhatsApp group. That person is Jamaican Carlos. He called me to tell me that people were asking about how the foundation's money was spent. Interestingly, most of these people, the Call to Action people, they have never contributed a dime for the foundation. But they're asking how money is spent. And then Carlos added, and I wrote it down, he said, You know, me I wanted the foundation could have given me a loan. Those were his exact words. Me I wanted the foundation could have given me a loan. I simply told him, come and say that brother, you're crazy. I simply told him, look, convey the message to anybody who wants to know that the foundation's finances are in order and every penny has been accounted for. That was my message.
Now, I must ask you pardon for butting in so often. But as old-time people would say, we must strike the hammer while it is hot. And this is hot information. Boy, the old-time people are busy tonight, eh? Yes, they are. Many lessons to be learned from them. Now, I butt in just to make a point. First of all, did you know that the call to action group was a WhatsApp group? I thought it was a registered group. But he did say Jamaican Carlos is a current member of the call to action WhatsApp group. So that's what call to action is, apparently. But it is when he went on to say that Carlos called him to tell him that people are asking about how the foundation's money was spent, right? He went on to say, interestingly, I want you to notice the word that he used. Most of these people, the call to action people, they have never contributed a dime to the foundation, but they are asking how money is spent. Now, my opinion is, to me, this is a very inflammatory comment, which is designed to rile up the people against the members of Call to Action. Right? Why I say so? Because he said that most of the people of Call to Action made no contribution to the foundation. Most, which means that some of the members did, and he has to concede to the donors, right, of the likelihood that it is these persons who made contribution like them to the foundation that has been asking what happened to the foundation's money, as they have a right to do. They have a right to know whether or not the money that they donated to this foundation is being used for the purpose for which it was intended. That is their right as donors. Remember, Rattigan would have gone and asked them to make donation for a specific purpose. What is the purpose that he told them? Was it to fight the legal battles with the government? If that was what he asked the donors to donate towards, by right, he ought to go back to them with a spreadsheet to show. You're not going to show the people's name. You're just going to show 1, 2, 3 and how much money you got. Or summarize it and tell them, I got X amount of money today from the march, and we spent Y, we are in the red, or we did, we made a little profit. This is how we are going to dispense it. That is what is called transparency, and that is a transparent organization, which accounts to those persons who make donations to it. So for him to have gone and brought up this matter of Jamaican Carlos asking for a donation from the foundation, to me, is a red herring. A red herring in order to cover up the fact that these people who are donors have a right to ask about what this money is done for. They're not asking for much. They're just asking to account for what their money was used for, as is their rights. And that, to me, is a reason, or he also clearly brought it up, the Carlos business, to scandalize him as well. But does that answer the question as to why he is not giving the people an account of what he has done with their donation. Well, let's listen on and see if he does.
Now, from to present, it's about 14 months. We started in June. No, 14 months. The board has had several meetings, formally and informally. 5 meetings have been documented. Mr. Herb Nelson has been a part of those meetings except for meetings held after August 11th of this year, the day he was voted off the board by a majority of the board members. And for those inquiring minds and the quick to judgment people, Mr. Nelson was voted off the board in compliance with the foundation's bylaws. So all of you out there who jump up and down and scream and not give him legal advice, please take us to court. Please. But before you do, ask Mr. Nelson about the bylaws. Now the foundation has until October 15th of this year to reconcile the donations and expenses and file its 2023 taxes. Those of you who live in America, you know how it goes. You don't file 2024 taxes while you're in 2024. You file for the previous year. So those of you with questions regarding how much money was raised, how the money was spent, and how much money is left, please be advised that the accountant will review the records, advise, certify, and submit the tax filing to Maryland and the IRS before the end of September 2024, before the end of next month. After that, it will be posted on our website for all of you to scrutinize and ask questions. Now, the foundation received its first donation in September 2023. Prezi and I know this because I have the records, and Prezi and I, we had to go back I had to let him in so we'll get to what we did this week, but it's nasty, people, nasty, but you'll hear about it. Now, since that time, a lawsuit against Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith has been filed. A lawsuit against the Prime Minister was researched and prepared, and we'll talk about the status of that lawsuit later. A letter was dispatched to King Charles regarding the Governor General's decision concerning his declaration of states of emergency. 3 protests have been conducted, and the 4th is scheduled for this Friday. The Global Jamaica Diaspora Council was registered. The GLC, General Legal Counsel, has received formal complaints concerning the DPP's actions with cases involving tainted juries, etc. As we speak, the foundation is working with a trusted partner to compile information and submit a human rights complaint to an international human rights organization for violations committed by the Jamaican government. The foundation also as well as sponsoring a major conference in New York next spring. So despite the distractions, the foundation is working in the interest of the Jamaican people. Now, what are the detractors doing to hold the government accountable? Nothing. Instead, they have set themselves up as impediments to progress. And ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, family, you have no choice but to ask yourself, are these people agents of the Jamaican government? Are these people agents of the Jamaican government? The foundation has caused the Jamaican government to sit up and take stock of the potential and awesome power of the diaspora. This foundation significantly raised people's awareness about the existence of a Jamaican diaspora in the US. People have become excited. People are bubbling with enthusiasm about the possibilities of a united diaspora and its ability to cause change in the lives of our brothers and sisters in Jamaica. People have told me that it wasn't until the foundation came on the scene that the word diaspora became part of our lexicon. In the history of the Jamaican diaspora, what other diaspora organization can lay claim to what the foundation has accomplished and in such short a span of time? As stated, there are those who were affiliated with the foundation who are now hell-bent on destroying it with an avalanche of lies, misrepresentations, and vituperation. Let this sink in. On Sunday, August 11th, 2024, at approximately 2:05, Mr. Herb Nelson Jr. said his goal is to have the IRS strip the foundation of its not-for-profit status, essentially destroying it. Let that sink in. Herb, my brother, you must know that the foundation's board, the ambassadors and supporters are resilient and focused. And we will continue in the face of your reckless assault on us because the issues are greater than all of us. And we will not abandon what we started for the people of Jamaica. I, for one, won't. And I know many of you stand with me united in this common cause. Again, considering the accomplishments of the foundation and what some of the call to action members and others have set out to do against it, you cannot help but wonder if they're agents of the Jamaican government. Think about it. If they're successful in their attempt to destroy the foundation, who benefits? The government, because then they have no pressure on them. Me good Jamaican people, whether you're in the diaspora or yard, we simply not afford this to happen.
So Herb Nelson now is to be made out to be the bad guy. The man who sat on your board and must have been asking for quite some time, because you failed to mention that. I find it incredible that he could have sat on the board for 14 months and not been asking about the accounts. Those several meetings that you said you had, he was asking for the accounts, wasn't he? What were you telling him? All the man was doing up to this point was asking about the account. You failed to provide the information. So as far as he would have been concerned, the reason why you can't provide the information is because you may be using the money for some other purpose. And even if you weren't, if you cannot account, then you are not a not-for-profit organization. So when he said he was going to report the organization, the foundation, to the IRS, even that could not get you to tell them what you did with the money, to provide proper accounting for the donations. Not even that. But now you come out now to make it look as if the man is an agent of the state, agent of the Jamaican government. Your people in your organization are totally against the JLP administration, who is the government of Jamaica. That's what your organization is about, right? I am no supporter of this present administration, right? I've never put my finger in an ink for a Labour Party government yet. But at the same time, some people did, and they have a right to have the government of their choice. At the end of the day in 2020, my choice was Dr. Peter Phillips. Their choice was Andrew Holness. I accept it. But why are you attempting now to align Herb Nelson? I don't know nothing about this man. But based upon your own words, you are trying to malign the man's reputation by insinuating that he must be an agent of the state to be asking you about where you do with the people and money, where you get, where you claim say you're going to use for legal defense, and you haven't been doing any suing of late. But again, you come with this emotive language as a red herring to distract the people, particularly your supporters and any potential donors, from the issues, what the real issue is. And what is that? What have you done with the money? And you have not accounted, and still you're asking people to continue to donate. So let us now briefly look at what is a 501c3 organization, which is what the foundation is registered under according to Wilfred Rattigan. It says here, what is a 501c3 organization? Essentially, it says here, Section 501c3 is a portion of the U.S. Internal Revenue Code and a specific tax category for non-profit organizations. Organizations that meet Section 501c3 requirements are exempt from federal income tax. So they don't pay income tax, federal income tax. The Internal Revenue Service recognizes more than 30 types of nonprofit organizations, but only those that qualify for 501c3 status can say that donations made to them are tax deductible. You hear that? All of you Jamaicans who have been donating to Rattigan's foundation called One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation, all of you can claim tax deduction for your donation. I believe they say from 60 to 100%, right? You can do so. But in order for you to do so, Rattigan will have to do something. And I will explain to you what that is shortly. They go on to say, most of the organizations that may be eligible for 501c3 designation fall into one of three categories: charitable organizations, churches and religious organizations, and private foundations. Now, the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation has the word foundation in its name, so we're assuming that it was registered as a private foundation. The rules outlined in Section 501c3 are regulated by the U.S. Treasury through the IRS, so it's managed by the IRS. But how does the 501c3 organization works? According to this, it says a group must operate exclusively for one of certain purposes to be considered a charitable organization by the IRS. Charitable, religious, educational, scientific, literary, testing for public safety, fostering national or international amateur sports competition, or preventing cruelty to children or animals. You hear that? You see anything about trying to get the government of Jamaica or any government at all to do what it's supposed to do on behalf of the people? I don't see anything like that at all. But it goes on to say, no individual or shareholder can receive substantial financial benefit from a 501c3 organization. Nonprofits also cannot operate for the private interests of their founder, board members, or staff. If a 501c3 organization is found to provide financial support to an individual with influence over the organization, they are in danger of receiving an excise tax and losing their tax-exempt status. You hear that? Additional restrictions on 501c3 organizations are for political activities. 501c3 organizations cannot be action organizations. These organizations cannot spend a substantial amount of their time or resources influencing legislation. He's not trying to do that. They also cannot participate in any partisan campaign activity for or against a candidate or party, which is the reason why you will hear Rattigan speak about his intention. It has to be an intention because the PNP is not in office, right? Where he's saying that he's going to hold government accountable. But is that part of any of what you see the IRS considers to be a charitable organization or a charitable activity? Holding a government to account for what the organizers call corruption in the use of the resources. You see anything like that? I don't see nothing like that either. It says here, because the organization serves the public, it must operate with full transparency. What is it that they mean by full transparency? Its finances, including salaries, are available to members of the public and subject to their review. Notice they did not say that the finances and the salaries are available to those who are donors or those who are on the board. No, it says are available to members of the public and subject to their review. Who are members of the public? Well, since they are in the United States, more or less meddling in our affairs in Jamaica, we would be the public. I, who I may not be a donor or supporter of them, can demand to see what they're doing with the money that they're collecting, right? I can demand the finances of the foundation. So too can any person in the United States or anywhere else in the world can ask them, and so too are the members of the call to action group, most of whom, according to Rattigan, did not donate one dime to the foundation. They too, according to the United States rules under which a 501c3 organization was established, are entitled under their laws to ask questions about the monies that have been donated to the organization. So, Mr. Rattigan, you are 100% wrong in this instance. I can understand that you spent the better part of your life as an FBI agent, fighting crime, I suppose, preparing reports when arrests are made, if you're in that side of the business, if you can call it a business. And maybe you don't understand these things because it's not something that you would have been doing all your life as if you're a businessman. So, you will make mistakes. I'm not going to kill you, but you need to withdraw your statement. The members of the call to action group, whether they donate to your foundation, yes or no, they're entitled to ask questions about it. That is the law. They then went on to discuss the pros and cons of the 501c3 organization. For the pros side, they say it is exempt from federal taxes. So one good thing about this type of organization, when you register your charity under that heading, is that it is exempt from federal taxation. The second benefit is that the contributions are tax deductible. That's why a lot of people flock to it, because they can go out and tell the donors that, look here, any money that you give to us, you can deduct it. A substantial portion of it you can deduct from your taxes, right? So that's another benefit. The third one is that these type of organizations are eligible for government and private grants. Rattigan, have you applied for any government or private grants? Somehow I doubt it because you don't keep accounts. So I don't think you would be in a position to do so at this time. Now, when it comes to the cons, it says that it does not belong to those who created it. You hear that, Rattigan? You created it, but it does not belong to you. According to the rules, the foundation belongs to the public. And so you can't be speaking about it as if it's your organization. Anyway, another disadvantage is that it's restricted to specific operations to receive tax exemption. The main persons in the organization can't give a financial benefit to themselves or to their staff, among other things. And the final thing that is considered to be a disadvantage to setting up a 501c3 organization, charitable organization, is what the donors and members of the public would like to hear. According to this, financial information is publicly accessible. Financial information is publicly accessible. But Mr. Rattigan has no financial information in order for it to be accessible to the public. It appears up to this day that he has no accounting record for the organization since its inception in June 2023. So when the public is demanding, or not the public, well, some members of the public, but the donors are demanding to know what is happening with their money or what has been done with their money, and Rattigan is refusing to give an account, he must be in violation of the law. He must be in violation of the IRS rules concerning a 501c3 charitable organization, because he's supposed to have financial record if the financial information is publicly accessible. This implies in no uncertain term that he's supposed to have a record, an accounting record of the income and expenditures for the organization for it to be able to be accessible to the public. He must have that, and he does not have it. If anybody were ever to call the IRS or perhaps even the police and make a formal complaint, especially in circumstances if they have sent him a written letter, whether by email or not, and he did not respond in a timely manner, or they can use all of these videos or lives on his platform as evidence that they have requested this information of him, and he is aware that the donors are requesting the financials of the organization based on what is coming out of his own mouth. Those lives, I am sure, can be used as evidence that he is aware that the donors and others are asking what is happening with the money. And he has not to date provided them with that information. In fact, he went so far as to be telling them that we all going to sit down and wait until the end of September when we submit the filings to the IRS, and after that, I'm going to put it on the website, as if to say he's under some kind of no obligation to account to anybody except himself, apparently. But then, that is not and should not be the end of the matter. For you who are donors, are you aware that your donation can be claimed as a tax deductible? Are you aware of that? Did Rattigan tell you that? Well, never mind. That's what we are here for at Jamaica 411, to bring information to you that we hope will be beneficial. Oh, by the way, you guys like up the video. Like up the video, man. Can't have me just talking someone and don't give me a little encouragement. Like up the video, please. Please. All right, so let me continue. So if you're a donor to this 501c3 organization that Rattigan set up, he calls the foundation, it says charitable organizations, substantiation and disclosure requirements. And this now is found on the IRS website. It says the Internal Revenue Code applies substantiation requirements for donors and disclosure requirements for charitable organizations in connection with charitable contributions. For a detailed discussion on the substantiation and disclosure requirements for charitable contributions, and they tell you where to go. Let me read now what it says the substantiation of contributions mean. It says a donor can deduct a charitable contribution of $250 or more only if the donor has a written acknowledgement from the charitable organization. For any of you donors out there who may have made a contribution of $250 or more, have you yet received a written acknowledgement from Rattigan's foundation? It says here the donor must get the, look here, it never said may get, Notice the language it used. The donor must get the acknowledgement by the earlier of, and then it says the date of the filing of the original return for the year the contribution is made. So if you made a contribution in 2023, then I suppose your return will be filed in October of this year. And if you make it this year, then you will make your return next year. And so you must get your acknowledgement from Rattigan's foundation before then. I assume this is what this is saying. Or on the due date, including any extensions you may have been given for filing the return. They also go on to say the donor is responsible for requesting and obtaining the written acknowledgement from the donee. So it is not Rattigan's duty to hand you a written acknowledgement unless that is what he promised. It is your responsibility, according to the IRS code, to go ask Rattigan for it. So if you want to claim back that money, and you're entitled to claim back that money in your tax return, ask Mr. Rattigan for a written acknowledgement of the donation that you had sent to him. And then you can use that written acknowledgement and claim back the money on tax deductible. Claim back the money from and not all of it, I understand, somewhere between 60 and 100%. But you would have to go on the website and figure that out. Anyway, it went on to say a donor cannot claim a deduction for any contribution of cash or a check or other monetary gift made on or after January 1, 2007, unless the donor maintains a written record of the contribution. So you have to have a written record. Either you have it on your bank statement or them give you a written acknowledgement. I guess that would form part of your written record. And that now you can use to claim your tax deduction. All right, I hope I gave you some useful information there. Now I am going to address Mr. Rattigan and his folks. Hopefully this is very brief, although it's actually 2 pages. Now, here is an organization by a man, Wilfred Rattigan, who is claiming that he and his organization is there to act on our behalf, we people in Jamaica. We, the citizens, the taxpayers, the voters, and residents of this country. He is in the United States with his organization claiming that he is acting on our behalf. I would like to ask Mr. Rattigan, can you provide us, please, with a letter from an organization ordinarily resident in Jamaica requesting that you and your organization act on their behalf to hold this government or any government in future to account for how they spend the taxes that we pay? Can you provide that? Because if you're going to say you're acting on our behalf, you must be able to produce some evidence that somebody here has asked you to do so. And if you cannot, it means you're not acting on our behalf. You're acting on somebody else's behalf, but not ours. Can you even provide a letter or something from even one of the nearly 3 million people in this country requesting that you should act on their behalf in the diaspora, demonstrating against the duly elected government in this country, Jamaica? Can you provide that? No? So therefore, whose behalf are you acting on? But it cannot be our behalf until and unless you can provide that information. Then nobody here asked you to act on their behalf abroad against this government. And therefore, you need to cease and desist from telling people that you are acting on behalf of anybody in this country. That's my message to you. The next thing I would like to point out to you, Mr. Rattigan, is this very odd thing about you. You're a very odd fellow, you know. You didn't know that? You're very strange. Because while you are claiming that you are there to hold government accountable, not the United States government, you know, where you live and work all your life, not the racist police in the United States and the racist people of the United States. Not them. You are not interested in them, but you're interested in what goes on in Jamaica. According to you, you want to hold the government accountable. Yet, you are not prepared to be accountable to those persons who are donating money to the alleged cause. How do you account for that? You know what we call that in Jamaica? One of the things that Jamaicans dislike, apart from a traitor, the next thing a Jamaican dislike intensely is a hypocrite, a pretender, right? You want to hold government account according to you, but you are not prepared to account to your members. There's no transparency in the organization that you run. But you want to hold Jamaican government accountable. You're not interested in the corruption and the crime and the racism and all the problems that is going on in the United States where you live and work. You're not interested in that, but you're interested in what our government is doing here. What accounts for all of that? The people of this country was asked September 3, 2020 to go out and elect members of parliament, the majority of whom, on whichever side of the political fence, whether PNP or JLP, would have formed the next government. At the end of the polling, albeit it may be only 21% of the people, the Jamaica Labour Party formed the new administration because they secured the majority of the seats in the parliament. I may not like that, it doesn't matter. That is our system of government in this country. They are who the 21% of the people had confidence in. And the other 63% who failed to vote, they were well prepared to accept the decisions of the majority. So the government, to some extent, to a great extent, maybe a little bit of extent, is legitimate. All right? They are the people's choice. Now, this government that you keep talking about, you're protesting against and holding to account, is their government. They put them there. They took the trouble of going to the polling station and dipped them finger in that ink and voted for who they want to lead them. That's who they have confidence in. So it's their government. You don't like it, Mr. Rattigan? There is the Manhattan Bridge. I do invite you to go and jump off it. If you don't like it. Right? What the government does or choose not to do is our business. It is our taxes, our labors. And when we are damn well good and ready, we, Mr. Rattigan, will organize ourselves to raise backside about whatever we feel like raising our backside about. And you don't need to meddle in it. You see, Mr. Rattigan, you have made a choice to live in the United States. Whether it was your original choice or your parents' choice, it doesn't matter. You have elected when you became a man to remain in the United States and live there, to use your education, the foundation of which you got from here. You have chosen to use your valuable time to labor to build that economy and institutions in the United States. You did not choose to stay here or even now to return to live in Jamaica. You have not made that choice. You're still there. But all of us here have nowhere to go. All of us live in Jamaica. We don't have nowhere to go. Even though most of us, given a chance, would have take up ourselves and go. But the majority of us do not desire to live anywhere else, Mr. Rattigan. These protest actions that you have been taking against the people of this country's government, according to you, on their behalf, which you have not even disclosed who these people are. Who are these people that ask you to act on their behalf. Just as you have not disclosed the finances of the foundation, you have not disclosed who these people are either. But you claim that you're protesting on their behalf, right? Now, if it is your expectation or whoever is behind you or putting you up to this, that your protests and actions by your foundations would have a very negative effect on this country, and if you succeed, it is the people of the country who are most vulnerable to external shocks who will suffer the most because of your actions. So what would you expect them to do? Rile up against the government? An insurrection? Isn't that what you're about, Mr. Rattigan? You see, when I think about it, and the more I think about your action, being a former FBI agent, right? This seems to me, from what I learned from history, a very typical tactic and strategy utilized by the white man and the white peoples of this world. When they want to get rid of a government, they don't want in favor of another government who made deals with them about what part of the country's resources they will hand over to them if they help them to gain power. Who are you working for, Mr. Rattigan? Did Peter Bunting meet with anybody in the United States government to make any promises or deals with them that if the PNP under Mark Goling were to form the next government, what the government of Jamaica can do for them? Did that happen? I'm just asking. Because it seems to me that if the United States, whether government or one of those little quasi-government, are involved in trying to undermine the economy of this country in order to get the government to be so unpopular that the people want to get rid of them by hook or crook, then they must have some reason to believe that there is something in it for them. I am asking you again, did Peter Bunting meet with anybody in the United States government and ask them or promise them or made a deal of something will be in it for them if they can help them to get the no traction boss, Mark Goling, the Englishman, to be Prime Minister of Jamaica? Did anything like that happen? It seems very far-fetched to me. But far-fetched as it is, it would explain, wouldn't it, who it was that recruited you to be doing all of this against the people of Jamaica. Because you're not making any sense. So, Wilfred Rattigan, I ask the question again, who are you working for? Talk to me, man, talk to me. Were the government taken to court in Jamaica about these human rights violations you are claiming occurred before you took the matter of complaint to the International Human Rights Body? I hope I can get some answer from you, because you are clearly working for somebody and you are clearly working against the interests of the people of this country. But you are claiming, as typical propaganda by these same white people, that you're doing it on whatever it is that you're doing is for the benefit of the people in order to cover whatever it is that you're really up to. Anyway, I hope I have provided some information to the donors and to you, my subscribers. I did tell you 1 hour, but boy, it went over an hour. Can't be helped. Sorry. Thank you so much for joining me. That last part may seem a little far-fetched, but Rattigan clearly is working for somebody. He cannot be doing this and defying his donors the way he's defining them, and seemingly don't expect any consequence, right? Something is behind something, and it's only a matter of time before it starts to pop out. So that's it for me for today. I thank you so much for being patient with me as usual and listening to me right through, because you're really patient. I hope this has been informative. Please give the video a like if you enjoyed the content. Share, subscribe, and leave your comments. Let me know what you think Rattigan could possibly be up to. Who is he acting on behalf of? Right? Is it the People's National Party, Peter Bunting, or is it some government agents in the United States that want to see the fall of this particular government for some particular reason best known for them? And what do you think that reason could be? Well, till next time, take good care of yourself and walk good.